The screech of tires cut through the noise of the busy street as Alexander Grant slammed the brakes of his car, his eyes fixed on something, or rather, someone, across the road. The silver glint caught his attention first, shimmering under the fading afternoon light, a familiar shape that clawed its way out of his past. He squinted, and his heart missed a beat. It was impossible. That necklace, shouldn't exist anymore. He pushed open the door before his driver could react. "Stay here," he muttered. The street buzzed with life, but Alexander didn't hear a thing. His gaze followed the young woman weaving through the crowd, a basket of flowers slung over her arm. Her steps quick, graceful, unaware of the man whose world had just stopped spinning. Couldn't be coincidence. That heart-shaped pendant with a ruby center. There was only one. He had it designed 12 years ago, custom-made for Catherine, the woman he once thought he'd spend forever with. His pulse thundered in his ears. No, Catherine sold everything. Everything. He had made sure of it when he saw the auction receipts after she left him. Yet here it was again, glimmering softly against the chest of a girl who looked nothing like her. Alexander followed her quietly, keeping distance, curiosity battling the ghosts of heartbreak. She stopped by a small cafe, laying her basket on a wooden table, arranging flowers into tiny paper cones. Her hands were delicate, her movements steady. But there was something about her eyes, calm, kind, and oddly familiar. A waiter approached him. "Sir, are you all right?" He blinked, realizing he had been standing there too long. "Coffee," he murmured. "Black." He sat near the window, pretending to read an email, but his attention never left the girl. Her laughter drifted through the air when a child tugged at her skirt for a flower. She knelt, handed him one for free, and brushed a lock of hair behind her ear. The ruby necklace caught the light again, cruelly reminding him of what he'd lost. When she turned to leave, his voice escaped before his mind could stop it. "Excuse me." She paused. Her eyes met his, curious but cautious. "Yes." He hesitated, realizing he had no plan, no reason that made sense. "You dropped something?" he lied, pointing vaguely toward the ground. She glanced down, frowned, and looked back up. "I don't think I did." Her voice, soft, unguarded, hit him like a wave. Catherine had sounded like that once, before greed took her away. He nodded quickly, forcing a smile. "My mistake." She shrugged and walked away. Alexander watched until she disappeared into the crowd, the ruby pendant burning a hole in his memory. That night, sleep refused to come. The image of the girl haunted him, her gentle manner, her kindness, and that cursed necklace. He paced his penthouse apartment, anger and curiosity swirling like a storm. If it's the same one, how? At dawn, he called his driver. "Logan, find out everything you can about the girl I spoke to yesterday. The one with the flower basket." Logan, loyal and unflappable, only nodded. "Yes, sir." Hours later, Alexander sat behind his massive desk, fingers tapping against a file folder. Logan stood before him. "Her name is Isabella Cruz," he reported. 24, lives in the lower district, runs a small flower shop near Riverside. Lives with an older woman, her grandmother, apparently. Nothing criminal. She's ordinary." "Ordinary?" Alexander repeated, the word sharp on his tongue. "And the necklace?" Logan shook his head. "Couldn't trace it. Looks expensive, but no records of purchase or pawn. It could have been passed down." "Passed down from who?" Alexander snapped. Logan hesitated. "Maybe her mother." Alexander froze. Her mother. The phrase stirred something inside him. Fear, disbelief, a faint whisper of fate mocking him. Catherine had disappeared after their breakup. Rumor said she'd left the country. But what if she hadn't? "Get me the shop's address," he said, voice low. Later that afternoon, Alexander stood outside Isabella's modest flower shop. The sign above the door read "Bloom and Hope." The air was sweet with the scent of lilies and wild roses. She was inside, arranging bouquets for two elderly customers, her laughter light and pure. When the bell above the door chimed, she looked up and smiled politely. "Good afternoon. How can I help you?" For a second, Alexander forgot how to speak. Her smile, gentle but confident, wasn't Catherine's, yet it carried an innocence that twisted something in his chest. "I need flowers," he said finally. She tilted her head. "For someone special?" He almost laughed. Special. That word had been empty for years. "For an old friend," he answered. "Then roses," she said. "They forgive everything." Her words struck him harder than they should have. She began picking stems, her fingers careful not to crush the petals. He watched her, silent, until his gaze drifted again to the ruby necklace resting against her collarbone. "Nice necklace," he said casually. She touched it unconsciously, smiling faintly. "Thank you. It belonged to my mother." The words sliced through the air. Alexander's throat tightened. "Your mother," he repeated softly. "Yes." Her tone dimmed, eyes lowering. "She passed away when I was little. This is all I have left of her." He felt the ground tilt beneath him. His voice came out rough. "Do you know where she got it?" She shook her head. "No. But she used to say it was from someone who once loved her." His breath hitched. "Catherine. It had to be." "Sir?" she asked, noticing the color drain from his face. He forced a smile. "It's a beautiful piece." She nodded, wrapping the flowers neatly. "That'll be $15. He handed her 100, ignoring her protest. "Keep the change." Her brows furrowed. "Sir, that's too much." But he was already out the door, heart pounding, his world collapsing under the weight of realization. He got into his car and leaned back, exhaling shakily. "Logan," he whispered. "She said the necklace was her mother's. Her mother died years ago." Logan frowned. "Do you think?" Alexander's hand tightened on the steering wheel. "Yes, I think she's Catherine's daughter." "And if that's true?" Alexander's voice broke. "Then she's mine too." The car fell silent as the city blurred past. In that moment, the billionaire who had everything felt the crushing emptiness of a man who had lost the only thing that ever mattered. Alexander didn't go home that night. He drove aimlessly through the city, the rain tapping against his windshield like a cruel metronome of regret. His thoughts kept circling back to that girl, her smile, her voice, the necklace. The more he tried to reason, the louder his heart screamed. If she truly was Catherine's daughter, then the years he spent building empires meant nothing. He had been rich in money, but bankrupt in love. At dawn, he parked outside a DNA diagnostic center. He had taken the opportunity the day before, when she had wrapped the flowers, to keep the ribbon she'd used. A few strands of her hair clung to it. He had stared at them the entire night, wondering if he'd lost his mind. Now he was here chasing ghosts. He handed the ribbon to the lab technician without a word, his heart hammering in his chest. "I'll pay whatever you need," he said quietly. "Just call me when it's done." 2 days later, his phone buzzed. The voice on the other end was calm and detached. "Mr. Grant?" The DNA comparison with your previous record came back. It's a 99.9% match. The girl is biologically yours. The phone slipped from his hand. For a long moment, he just sat there, his mind blank, his chest hollow. His daughter. He had a daughter. All those years of loneliness, of silence, of bitterness. None of them prepared him for the weight of that truth. He remembered Catherine's last words before she left. "You'll regret what you've become." He thought she meant emotionally. He never imagined she meant this. He drove back to Bloom and hoped the same day. Isabella was outside sweeping leaves, her hair tied loosely, humming a tune. He watched her from the car, afraid to step out. What could he say? "Hi. I'm the father you never knew existed because I destroyed your mother's life." Still, he couldn't stay away. He entered quietly, and she looked up, recognition flashing in her eyes. "Oh, it's you again. The overtipper," she teased gently. He managed a smile. "Guilty. Back for more roses?" she asked, leaning over the counter. "Something like that," he said softly. "Actually, I wanted to talk." She blinked, surprised. About what? He hesitated, searching for the right words. Your mother. Did she ever mention my name? Her expression faltered, the playful warmth fading. Why would she? He swallowed hard. Because I think I knew her. Her brows knitted. That's impossible. She was alone for as long as I can remember. People can hide things, he whispered. Isabella's gaze hardened. Who are you, really? You've been asking strange questions, showing up here again and again. What do you want? Her tone cut sharper than he expected. I just want the truth, he said, voice trembling. She shook her head. Truth about what? My life? My mother? She's gone. Whatever truth you're looking for died with her. Her words hit him like shards of glass. He wanted to say it, wanted to shout that she was his child, but the fear of losing her before he even had her kept him frozen. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I didn't mean to upset you. She exhaled, softening. It's fine. People ask about her sometimes. She was beautiful, you know. Everyone said she had the kind of smile that made people forgive their worst days. He smiled faintly, eyes distant. Yeah, he whispered. I remember that smile. Her phone rang, breaking the tension. She excused herself and walked outside. Alexander stood there for a moment longer, staring at the flowers she'd arranged. The same red roses he used to give Catherine every Friday. The coincidence twisted his heart. When she returned, she looked worried. Sorry, that was the hospital. My grandmother collapsed. I have to go. Without thinking, Alexander said, I'll drive you. She hesitated but nodded, panic winning over caution. Minutes later, his car sped through the streets, Isabella's hands trembling in her lap. At the hospital, she rushed to the reception while Alexander handled the paperwork with quiet efficiency. He stayed in the background, letting her be near the woman who'd raised her. He could see the love in her eyes, the desperation, the fear. It was everything he never got to give her. Hours passed. When Isabella finally emerged, her eyes were red. She's stable, she murmured. But the doctor says she needs medication I can't afford. Alexander didn't hesitate. How much? She frowned. Too much. But don't worry, I'll figure it out. He reached into his coat, pulled out his checkbook, and scribbled an amount. You shouldn't have to figure it out. She blinked in disbelief. You can't just... Why would you do that? He met her gaze. Because some people deserve a little help. Tears welled up in her eyes. You don't even know me. He smiled softly. Maybe I'm trying to. Her lips parted, but no words came. She took the check with trembling fingers. Thank you, she whispered. When she looked away, Alexander finally allowed himself a breath. One step at a time, he thought. I'll make it right. Over the next few weeks, he visited the shop often, sometimes with excuses to buy flowers, sometimes just to talk. Isabella started to trust him, laughing more around him, telling stories of her childhood, of her mother's strength and struggles. Every word she spoke cut him deeper, but also healed something inside him. One afternoon, as she arranged tulips in a vase, she said softly, You remind me of someone my grandmother used to talk about. She said there was a man my mother loved once. Someone she couldn't be with because their worlds were too far apart. His heart pounded. Did she ever tell you his name? She shook her head. No. She said love doesn't always need a name. It just leaves a mark. He looked at her, his throat tight. Your mother was right. She smiled faintly. She used to say that necklace carried her biggest mistake and her greatest joy. His breath caught. Her biggest mistake? Falling in love, Isabella said simply. But she never said with who. The silence that followed was heavy. He wanted to tell her everything right then, to end the lies and the waiting. But before he could, her grandmother's voice echoed weakly from the back room. Isabella? She excused herself, rushing inside, leaving him alone with his guilt. That night, he stood on his balcony overlooking the city. The moon hung pale and distant, just like the years he'd lost. He pulled out his phone, opened his contacts, and scrolled to her name. His thumb hovered over the call button. He wanted to tell her the truth, But not like this. Not before she was ready. He typed a message instead. Some truths are painful, but they're worth hearing. When you're ready, I'll tell you everything. He didn't send it. Instead, he whispered to the wind. I'll make you proud, Catherine. I'll fix what I broke. The city lights below blurred as tears filled his eyes. Tears he hadn't shed in years. The door creaked open behind him. He didn't turn. He didn't have the strength to. Her soft steps filled the silence, one after the other, until she stood beside him. The same necklace hung loosely from her hand, clean, glinting under the golden light of the setting sun. I thought I lost you, she said quietly. Her voice trembled. Not just the necklace, but you. Alexander finally turned, his eyes heavy with everything he hadn't said for years. You didn't lose me, he whispered. You just stopped looking. Her breath hitched. That's not fair. Neither is fate, he replied, his tone calm, almost tired. But maybe it gives second chances. She opened her palm, the necklace lying in the center like a bridge between their past and present. He stared at it, the same object that had carried their love, their pain, their entire story. Slowly, he reached out and closed her hand around it. I don't need it anymore, he said. You do. Tears filled her eyes. It was yours first. No, he smiled faintly. It was always ours. The silence that followed was softer this time, filled not with anger but with understanding. The world around them seemed to pause, holding its breath as if waiting for something beautiful to unfold. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady. I kept searching for peace in all the wrong places. I thought if I buried everything, I could move on. And did you? She shook her head. No. The necklace found its way home before I did. He exhaled, feeling a weight lift off his chest. For years, he'd carried resentment like armor. But now, standing here, he realized forgiveness wasn't for her. It was for himself. Then maybe it's time, he said quietly. Time to stop running. She nodded. Together. He looked at her, the girl he once loved, the woman he'd tried to forget. And in that single glance, he knew. Not every story ended in reunion, but some needed closure more than love. He smiled gently. Together, they stood side by side, watching the waves crash against the shore. The necklace glimmered between their fingers, a symbol not of what was lost, but what was found again. In the distance, a storm brewed, the sky darkening. Yet for the first time, neither of them flinched. The past no longer frightened them. It had shaped them, broken them, and now set them free. She turned to him, her voice barely above a whisper. Do you think things could ever be the same? He smiled sadly. No. But maybe they can be better. And as the final light of day touched their faces, he finally let go, not of her hand, but of the pain that had defined him for too long. He took a step forward, then another. She followed, their shadows merging on the wet sand, walking toward whatever awaited them next. The necklace swung lightly between their hands, catching the wind. It glittered once, twice before resting still, as if content that its journey had come full circle. That night, the ocean whispered a different kind of song, not of sorrow, but of peace. And somewhere deep within the quiet of their hearts, they both knew, some things aren't meant to stay lost forever. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the Story Haven. Leave a comment about what you'd do if something precious found its way back to you. And share the story with someone who needs a little hope tonight. End of story.